We've got our three speakers with us today. I'd like to introduce to you Eamon McGann, who's our Client Solutions Director here at Core, Hans Ulrich Madsen and Asger Stephenson, who are directors at WorkPoint. This is going to be a deep dive into some of the solutions that you guys can get on the Microsoft 365 stack, and also a wee bit more of a kind of deep dive into how we can help you obviously problem solve and get a bit more solutions. But with that said, I'm going to pass it over to Eamon.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. So good morning all, or frankly, if you're watching this afterwards, whatever time zone you might be in, great to have you with us this morning. The webinar, as Chris said, is really looking at how we can look at SharePoint and Teams and extend SharePoint and Teams with WorkPoint and Core. And I think a key focus for us is to understand how using WorkPoint we can accelerate the design, development, management, and more importantly, evolution of standard business processes. So the kind of things that you traditionally have seen on top of SharePoint, but how can we get most benefit out of the Microsoft 365 stack? So that's kind of going to be our key focus. As Chris also said, I'm joined by a couple of colleagues today. So my name's Eamon McGann. I'm the Solutions Director of Core, and I'll explain a little bit about my role in some of the slides coming up, but I'm delighted to be joined by Hans and Asger. So Hans, if I may, I might just pass to you for a second just to do an introduction, and then you, Asger.
Thank you, Eamon, and thank you all for attending here. We are very excited, of course, to be part of this webinar. My name is Hans Ulrich Madsen, as mentioned by Eamon, and I'm responsible for partner development and commercial topics here at WorkPoint. So we are looking very much forward to today.
Thank you, yes, and my name is Asger Stephenson. I've been WorkPoint for quite a long time, and I have the pleasure of demonstrating our product for you today a little later.
Excellent. Thanks both. Okay, so just a quick overview of what we intend to cover today. So the introductions, we'll do a little bit more on kind of Core and WorkPoint, so give you a little bit more context on who we are. But I think the main body is to introduce the platform. What is WorkPoint? We are going to focus in on projects and document management, but you know, we want to make sure that you know WorkPoint covers an awful lot of other capabilities and business solutions, and I believe Noel's on the call and was interested in things like contract management. So just as a note for yourself, Asger, you know, contract management may be something we want to touch on as we go through. There's a lot of similarities between the solutions, and we want to highlight those today. So I'm going to spend about 10-ish minutes, just slightly over 10 minutes, on introducing the platform, some of the key things in the platform, but then really line that up for Asger to do a demo following on from that. Q&A is mentioned there, by the way. You know, the chat windows there in the background. Chris and the team are keeping an eye on the chat window. So if you select the Q&A button, if there's any questions you want to ask as we go through, please do ask. And hopefully toward the end, we'll also come back to some questions. And there's a lot I could say about Core, but I want to keep it contextual to today's session. You know, we're a managed Microsoft Gold partner with a lot of competencies, and vast decades of experience, of which I've been around for most of that, but a lot of experience in designing M365 solutions. I think the key point for today on this slide is the SharePoint element. We're the launch partner of SharePoint 2001 and have been delivering SharePoint solutions pretty much since. And I personally have been involved in delivery of a lot of those solutions. At last count, we're somewhere in between 300 and 400 solutions that we've delivered on the SharePoint platform. And our goal in terms of transforming technology, transforming business through tech, has always been around how do we get the max value from a customer's investment in Microsoft, whether that customer is E1 or E5, getting the best value from that. And that's where we think the introduction of products like WorkPoint really enhance the base product set in the Microsoft stack. And that's really what today is about, explaining that in a little bit more detail. Hans, I'm going to maybe pass to you just to give a bit of context to WorkPoint as a company.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eamon. WorkPoint at a glance, we are a Danish-based software company vendor. We have been providing services natively on Microsoft for the last 25 plus years. So we have a lot of know-how in terms of optimizing processes, and of course, what this also ended up with the platform of WorkPoint 365, which you're going to be seeing and demoing today. We are also a Microsoft Go partner. We work very, very closely with Microsoft in everything that we do. We are very partner driven, so we rely a lot on our partnerships and primarily priority partners like Core to ensure safe delivery and implementation, support, so forth, of our software. We have a very flat structure in our organization, and we do a lot to support our partners in general. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Okay, so Core is a Microsoft. Oh, sorry, I'm jumping my slides. Just in a brief introduction to customers, I think the reason for showing this slide really is the vast majority of customers on this list. We have worked with them over the last couple of years to drive both collaboration and productivity workloads on the Microsoft 365 stack, and that's key really for getting the value from the stack. And as you can see from the list, there's quite a cross-reference between public sector customers and private sector. So it's really ubiquitous in terms of the type of technology and the type of solutions we're building for these organizations. And in terms of the types of solutions, Core is a Microsoft 365 modern workplace specialist. It really is our sole focus, and we cover the full stack from end to end. But really the key element for today is the modern workspace. The modern workspace really is the heart of the modern workplace. Now that's a bit of a tongue twister, but if you can bear with me on it. And when we look at Microsoft, the solutions that they offer in the modern workspace area, we've SharePoint, we've Teams, and we now have Viva coming into that space. However, this is the space that we have specifically partnered with WorkPoint to truly extend and enhance that modern workspace capability. We partnered many years ago with WorkPoint to try and accelerate common business solutions. And our basic principle, and I'll explain this a little bit more in the next few slides, but our basic principle behind this partnership is why reinvent the wheel? Why deliver line of business solutions in complex ways when actually out of the box using a solution like WorkPoint, we can have things like contract management, project management, and document management up and running simply and easily, and extendable. And we will come back to that in some areas, which kind of leads me to the point about our whole partnership. So why WorkPoint? And really we have to talk about why SharePoint if we're going to talk about why WorkPoint. Since its launch, and I've been personally involved in SharePoint for a long time, it's been a significant product for Microsoft, and it's continued to grow and develop significantly over the last few years. And when you look at it straight out of the box, it provides a lot of capability. So for common solutions like communication and collaboration, intranets, Microsoft really deliver that really well out of the box. However, its strength as a modular technology, kind of Lego block is the analogy we often use, can also be its weakness. As we continue to extend it to do other things, so we get into more complicated case management, contract management, document management, HR management, we all too often find that those projects get out of control, they get very unwieldy, time consuming, and probably more than anything else, costly. So for us at Core, we are a very focused SharePoint partner, but it made total sense to bring WorkPoint into the mix to mitigate that issue of complexity. Why take the risk why take on the risk of building those solutions when you can deliver it out of the box, and really invest time to extend those solutions using the Microsoft stack? So get up and running, and that's really what Azure is going to show us shortly. Get up and running out of the box with some of these solutions, and then develop and extend those. And I'll come back to that in a wee while. But the circle on the top right of the slide really is the key point for me. It's really about achieving a dedicated outcome, a desired outcome in a very specific time frame and to a very specific budget. The days of saying this thing's going to take us months and months and months, and never quite knowing, this is what WorkPoint achieves for us at Core, and why we're so keen on the partnership. And how does it do this? For me, fundamentally, WorkPoint it comes with a number of accelerators, and this list actually probably doesn't do WorkPoint justice, but what this slide is trying to do is show where these accelerators fit within the Microsoft ecosystem. So these are the accelerators that really I'll hand over to Azure shortly to kind of take us through the kind of key components of these accelerators and what they do, but it's about deploying these accelerators and extending these accelerators. We will primarily focus in on document management and project management. That was kind of the focus for us today. It's certainly project management tends to be where a lot of our customers start. They use it to deliver their projects, but we're also working with legal firms in terms of matter management and case management and contract management is a very common use case for us as well. So I think the principles will apply, and Azure will obviously use the time he has to kind of work through these as we go. So, but how does WorkPoint do this, and what are the key things? And again, I think Azure will take us through this, but for me, the key summary, if I gave you nothing else really at this stage, is that it provides a standardized set of processes and templates to guide you through structured projects, structured cases, structured business functions. And it allows you really to provision those projects with consistency. So all of your projects and the different variations of your projects, the different variation of your contracts will all follow a consistent both provisioning process and structure as you go through the life cycle of those engagements. And that really is an important piece. It is configurable to your individual implementation, but using the structure that WorkPoint give you out of the box. And I think that's point number 2 for me, is structure. It's probably one of the real big wins for what WorkPoint brings to the table. When we build these kind of solutions in native SharePoint, the creation of hierarchy and structure is probably where a lot of projects fail. It's a real struggle sometimes to get this hierarchy right, and flexible configuration of hierarchies of the hierarchy is something that WorkPoint also brings to the table here in terms of interrelationships, interdependencies, and so on. And doing this, frankly, in SharePoint is very challenging. This is an out-of-the-box capability for WorkPoint. There are a couple of other nice-to-haves, things that I think you get on top of WorkPoint, on top of the base solution. And again, we'll show maybe some of these, but particularly WorkPoint Express. And I think WorkPoint Express is a really important and probably the key win for the solution. The whole point of WorkPoint and SharePoint is that we build a project management, case management solution that holds all of the content. But customers and users, a lot of them will want to work in their native product, be that Outlook or File Explorer. What WorkPoint Express allows us to do is let the user stay in their native product while maintaining the structure of the contract or the project within WorkPoint itself. And again, it's a key thing that Azure is going to come back to a little bit later to show us how that works. Another feature that I don't think we'll have time really to run through today, but I did want to mention it because it stood out for us when we first saw the product many, many years ago. And in fact, it's probably one of the things that some of the team here at Core really thought it was one of the kind of key things, and this is the WorkPoint Email Manager. And we all know email management is a significant burden, and it's actually quite a big risk if we think of things like GDPR when we're managing content online. So to ensure that content is archivable in the correct location and searchable, which can be a bit of an Achilles heel for SharePoint, WorkPoint Email Manager is an absolute lifesaver in this particular space. So it's an extra capability in the tool, and something we feel is one of the key benefits of the tool itself. Now, I've talked quite a bit so far about extensibility, and I think this is really, really important. We get a solution out of the box, we get a solution that does what we need, and that solution is configurable, but actually it's highly extendable. And there's some real key important points about doing more with what you already have in your Microsoft licensing. And one particular area that's of interest, and we at Core get heavily involved in, is the use of Power Platform to extend the WorkPoint solution. So what we're really talking about here is that you don't need to have intense WorkPoint skills to extend this solution. You don't have to have proprietary WorkPoint skills. We can easily extend the solution. For example, we can use standard SharePoint or WorkPoint events and triggers to do some integration. So we could have, for example, the creation of a new contract, creation of a new project, and where we automatically pick up on that event, and using the Power Platform, so Power Automate, we drive information into a finance system or vice versa. And that's such an easy thing to achieve, which in other solutions, in our view, is a much more difficult thing to do. So in integration and using Power Platform to extend the tools that you may well already have in-house and the experiences you may already have in-house is a key benefit of the platform. I think we couldn't mention the Microsoft stack without mentioning Teams. WorkPoint put a lot of effort into Teams and teamifying WorkPoint, and I'm particularly enthused by what's available. And again, Azure is going to take us through that. So I'm going to hand over to Azure, and I'm going to ask him to kind of take us through in demo mode what the kind of key benefits are of WorkPoint. But for me, if I summarize them, really it's the fact that it provides standardized process to support a key set of business functions, and then it does that right out of the box. It provides the governance needed for structure and data. It does that out of the box. It's really easy to learn. I know our team here in Core really took to the product really, really quickly and loved the product. It really does scale as you need it to scale. And I think that the final piece for me is that speed of execution. We no longer talk to customers about months and months and months of implementation time. We're talking about days and weeks to get up and running with a solution that meets the needs pretty much straight out of the box. So fantastic product. Really looking forward to passing over to Azure now to show us the product.
I think that was my cue, Eamon. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I've rarely heard my name mentioned so many times during a speak with so much. I feel the pressure now, but I will do my best to give a bit of idea of what WorkPoint can do.
No pressure, Azure.
That's all right. What I'm going to show you is, of course, an example of a project solution, pretty much a standard configured one. We are only also just scratching the surface during this webinar, but hopefully it'll give you an idea of what is possible. So without more talk, let me see if I can share my screen. There we go. I think should be this. And as said in the start, please feel free to write down your questions, and we'll have a Q&A session eventually. Now, what you're looking at here is a front page in the web browser environment. Some of those of you who are familiar with SharePoint will see there's certainly some SharePoint behind the scenes here, but there are also some things that does not usually appear in SharePoint. So let me walk you through what you're looking at. A configurable dashboard for the user to land on with hopefully relevant information. It could be a very generic one, but it can also be user defined, user specific. So my user here is seeing at tasks that are actually his task, looking at his projects he's involved with. There is a dashboard here with a chart, some charts here with the information from the projects. And this is, by the way, one of the places where we tap into the Microsoft platform, because this is pure Power BI based. So Power BI can connect and pull out the data. But I should say that the reason we can do that is because of the unique structure of WorkPoint, where we know what is in there and where to find it. So that's one of the things that makes this possible. But here you can have all kind of reports on your project data. If you go further down, you see a more dashboard list of companies, recent documents, such things like that. Bottom line is this dashboard can be configured to suit your needs and your users, and there's lots of options. If you look to the left, you see some shortcuts to my projects. I can see my project, I can see all projects portfolio overview. I can see companies and contacts and other things. So this is kind of shortcuts for the user. These are also, everything pretty much is fully configurable like this. Top left, you will see the WorkPoint home button. Opening that will give me a little menu, and this is also a new thing when you compare to standard SharePoint. This is some WorkPoint control stuff. But what this shows me is it shows me my module structure. My whole solution are made up by these 4 modules: companies, contacts, projects, and project transmittals. You will note the small fine lines here indicates that there is a hierarchy. So it's kind of logic that you have some customers you work with, and for those customers you have some contact persons, and you do some projects with the customers, and the projects can have transmittals. So this is kind of the structure. WorkPoint does not require things to be in a hierarchy, but often it's useful. You can have several layers. You can also have no hierarchy. It depends a lot on how your business is organized and how you work and what makes most sense. But this is the standard out-of-the-box project solution, looks pretty much like this. Each of these small arrows will give you access to various views. Like those of you who know SharePoint, you can do SharePoint views. The same thing here, you do views based on your data. So you can predefine these views or you can make them on the fly. Down here, you will see a few extra things, and this little cogwheel will give me access to, provided, of course, I have the rights to go to the WorkPoint administration. Eamon said that it's a quick, rapid deployment, and that's one of the reasons for this, is that a lot of things are predefined and a lot of things can be just simply configured from our administration interface. So we have had from the beginning a very strict policy of no code. So there's no code involved in setting up a WorkPoint solution. It's all configuration and of course integration with your Microsoft platform. To the top right, we have We have a few buttons here. These are what we call my tools. They're typically for creating new content, like new project, new company. But they will change depending on where you are in the system. They're context sensitive, and they can also be configured to do a lot of things. Some of them are standard out of the box, and then you can configure further buttons to do things you need. Finally, we have the WorkPoint icon here. Gives me the search. The search panel will come out and allow me to search in the modules, as you can see here, with a list of companies. I have a list of projects, and I can simply just start typing, and the project hopefully will come up, what I'm looking for. So I can double click and go down to the project. I can also search free text and documents. So everything that's documents, mails, any file that are in the system is indexed. And if I start searching for, if I hit the button, if I start searching, I will see having hits. So the search will go into everything. It takes the text in the documents, it takes the titles, it takes the metadata. And if I still think I have a bit of too much of a result, I can say let's just go and have a look at some kind of filtering. So this way I can quickly get an overview of what I'm looking for, and clicking on it will give me even a preview, so I can see, all right, this is the one you're after, or is it not? So that's the search feature. And to navigate a little bit further, if I'm a user working on my projects, I could, for example, go and have a look at my project overview, my portfolio overview. This will give me the list of my projects grouped in this time in stage. So we have 2 in stage active, we have 16 in stage analysis. And you can see that you also get a project status here. So whether we are green or not too good, it's red. So we probably need to do something about that. I can see multiple metadata, and of course these can be configured and adjusted to suit your needs for the views. If I say, all right, let me go and have a look at my usual project. This is the one I want to go to. I'll click the side icon, and that will bring me to the project site, the collaboration space, so to say. So now this site is identical to all the other project sites, meaning that it'll have the same front page look and feel, and have the same underlying lists with data. And the reason for that is the way WorkPoint is constructed, that when you set up a module, like this is a project in a project module, you define what we call a master site. So I say, whenever I create a project of a certain type, I want it to look like this, because I know I need what kind of data I need and data fields. So then you know they're always identical. Again, starting from the top, you will see I'm actually under a company, and that's of course due to the hierarchy. So I can see now I've gone down under the companies and down into the project. So I'm looking at a project here. I can see my company is active, so that's an active customer probably. I can see my project is in analysis stage. Clicking my project will reveal a bit more information, because now here we can see, first of all, shortcuts to all the lists on the left side as well. So there's another way, but also I see we have certain stages we go through. Now the stage model is something that is also unique to WorkPoint. It is used to create, for example, project models, but it can be life cycles of pretty much anything you do. If you're not talking projects, you may talk about contracts that will also go through a preparation, a pre-sign stage, and a signed and active stage, maybe a renegotiation and back to signed. So a lot of things in the daily work can be built into these stages. Could be complaints, could be a number of other things. And here we have a model for running our projects. Again, this can be depending on the project type. If you have several project types, you may want to have several sets of models with different stage names and transitions. It is a fully configurable setup. It can also be used to a lot of other things. You can build a lot of business logic into this. Example could be to prevent a user to change this to active if some requirement has not been fulfilled. Could be missing data or tasks or documents. Another thing could be to trigger underlying workflows. This is a place where we tie into the Microsoft portfolio. We could generate workflows used on Power Automate that could run from here. We could have Power Apps triggered. Any number of things really can be triggered by a change of stage, as well as it could be by adding data to the solution. So also maybe if the project turns from green to yellow, there will be triggered some events happening. So we have a lot of underlying possibilities to build in and configure specific customer-centric business processes here. You see here the presentation tab. You see the metadata of the project. You see name, of course, project manager. Again, actually there are more metadata on this project, but this is just what we've chosen to display on this specific tab. You can configure how this should be presented as well. Just going to the next tab, the journal tab will show me what has happened over the last period of time. This is all the new content that has been added to the project. And eventually I have here my stage details, and this is where I say, okay, if I want to change the stage, I can click this button. I could also click here, but that will bring me to the next stage. You can see there are actually some sub stages on the analysis, so that's another part of the stage model. So I hope this gave an idea that there's quite a bit of business logic you can get supported with this. So looking at the project's page itself or site itself, you see a short list of the documents. That's actually from over here, from the document list. You see a risk matrix. If you're working with risks, traditional risk management, you know that you can record a risk and what happens if it appears. So here we have some risk and we have some probability, etc. Classic risk management. It's all created when you report a risk. You'll fill in a form. It'll go into the risk list and eventually be populated here to give the project manager an overview. This is not looking too good. Further down, you see upcoming appointments. You see overview of the tasks that have to be completed or are in progress. You can see the project team. And at the bottom here, we have relations to other things. Now, the relation requires a bit of explanation. It's quite easy to see that this project, due to the hierarchy, is related to this company. But if there are parallel projects that are not with the same company, or we have other companies serving as advisors on projects, that's not something you can just see from the hierarchy. So that's why we created the ability to relate things to each other. So I can quickly see, okay, this project here with some metadata has actually a relation to this, so I can go to that project straight from here. Or there is a lawyer involved, I can click on that one and I can see the information here. And again, I can go straight to the site for the lawyer. So giving me an opportunity to quickly get an overview of not only the project and the customer, but also the related elements to this world. Right, as you may have seen, noticed, we have changed some buttons. The buttons have now been giving me ability to change the stage, to create new document, create a status report, risks, etc. And there are even more if you click here, the full list. When it comes to document is a big thing in most businesses today, and especially the management of them and control. Now, we already have put the structure on the project itself, and we know where it sits, but now it's about doing the document thing. For the documents, we have decided from the very beginning that the WorkPoint should have its own template management setup, because templates can be thrown in everywhere in Microsoft, and there's no control over it, so it can be very hard to maintain. We have put in one template library, and that is behind this all the solution, which then means that you can have super users with access to that in charge of keeping templates up to date. All the user needs to do is to know that there's a button, and that button will provide him with a wizard guiding him through creating a document. So let's see how that works. Clicking the button will initiate the wizard, given the opportunity to put in a name for the document. We will define where to put it. There's only the one document library here, so it defaults to that, but there could be multiple document libraries on a project side. In this case, we'll just stick to that. We can choose whether it should be in a folder or not. If I want to use one of these folders, or if I want to create a new one, we'll stick to the root for now, but just so you know, we can put documents down into folders. And then I can pick my my template. Now there might be 20, 50, hundreds of document templates in the solution, but I'm only seeing a handful here because the system knows that I'm working in a project module. So it will only show me templates relevant for project work. And if there should be a long list, I can still search for them in this list. So if there are a lot of project documents. Now, clicking one of them will give me a preview, so I can check whether this is the one I'm looking for. And if you check another one, you see that's a different one. No, it was actually the first one I wanted to have. You will also notice here that there are some tags in this document. So that means that the template has been set up with a mail merge feature. So it will merge data from the project and or the customer into the document where relevant. This is something that super users can do themselves. It's not something that requires any expert help. It's a fairly simple task to do. When I'm happy with what I've chosen, I can do save and edit, or I can just edit it online in Word Online if you prefer, or just close it. But I want to edit further edit, so I will now click this button. What happens now is that there's a version. The first version is now saved where I chose to have it, and I'm now opening Word, which now shows me the draft for my document. So here I can continue writing my document, and when I'm happy with it, I can just shut it down. Now, while I'm working on my document, I may need to check something, and we have here WorkPoint Express, which gives me access to my entire WorkPoint solution. Now it will load a couple of demo users given my setup, as you can see, but in a second it will be there, and that gives me access to check. Let's assume that we need to. Let's assume we need to check something for on the customer. So if I go to my company module and I say I'll search for smooth. So I find my smooth brown wheel here, and I can see there is a mail correspondence I want to check. So somebody else, not me, have added a mail to the customer, and I can open that and I can check before I continue writing what was in that mail. Or I could check a document that was about, or I could go down to I could even go to the project itself. So from in here, I can still, while I'm working on my document, I can access my solution. I don't even have to go back to the browser. I will get more on this in a second. Now we'll just shut this down and we'll go and have a look at my document list. Here we have my webinar report, and then I could continue working in the whole processing of this. Now we haven't put in a reviewer for this, but it may be that this document required reviewing and approval. In case, then we would add a reviewer person as a metadata, and we could then say, let me just send this document to review. Now the send to button gives me a lot of options, and that's also something that can be configured to more or less. But what I was talking about here is approval. So here I simply have a button, so I can send this particular single document or more documents than one for approval. What will happen is that we will then tie in again to the Microsoft platform, and the approval will get either a Teams notification or an email or both, and with a link to the document, so he can then open the document, review it, and either approve it or reject it, and also put in a note on why is this. So as you can see, several other options here, but for the approval, that would be the way to go. Right, we talked about WorkPoint Express, which I'm going to now. Also, I think even touch a little bit on email management. Email management in WorkPoint is can be several things. The simple version is what I'm going to show you right here. So if you see here, I'm connected to my WorkPoint demo project management solution. I will search for Carbon, and that'll show me that there's one project named Carbon. So I can just go down to that, and I can say, here is a list of mails, here are a list of documents. My list of mail, I want to add a mail to this, and that's the mail I've received here. Very important Microsoft email. So I will take this mail and I will simply drag it and drop it. From here, you will notice now I've added it to my solution. So now it's in my WorkPoint solution. It's accessible by everybody who has access to this particular project. Speaking of access, we can control the access right down to the individual email or document if we want, but typically it will be enough to have a user access to projects or to customers. But we have a very advanced security model, which of course builds on top of the Microsoft one, but we've added some more to it to make it easier to manage and other things. Well, we journalized the document, and you can see here we actually have a tag in my mail to show me that this has been journalized. As Eamon mentioned, we have a feature called Email Manager, which can in fact automatically journal email based on email domains and contact emails. So I'm not going to show that here, but just letting you know that there is both the manual journaling of emails, but also the fully automatic version. If I had a document in my mail, I could drag and drop this whole mail to my list, just like I did. It'll take a full copy, including all the documents, but I could also say, I only want to have my contract. They've sent me a contract back. I can see there's already one. So, but I want that maybe we've sent this off for comments, and now they come back with the suggestions. So what I want to do now is I want to drag this to my project. And what happens now? The system realizes there is a conflict here because it knows this contract already. It's the same name, so it asks me what is going on here. Is this a new version, or was it a mistake? Stop, or do we need to rename? So it could be either way, but I say, all right, this is the one I've returned. This is a newer version. So now I'll just say yes, please add a new version. And what happens now is that we tie into the WorkPoint to the SharePoint version control. So if I go and have a look at my document properties, I can see that we are now in version 2.0. So we just added an extra version to this document, and it's modified today by me. So it takes all the metadata into the document. So this is another way. Of course, you don't have to drag and drop emails and documents just from your Outlook. You can do it from your File Explorer. You can do it from pretty much anywhere. And WorkPoint Express is available both in Outlook, but also in Word and Excel, as you saw, and in Excel and in PowerPoint, and even as a standalone desktop application. So you don't have to open any of your Office environments. You can simply just open the WorkPoint Express and work this way with your data. It has the same features. I could have just as well have created my document in here from template. I would get the same wizard as I had before in the browser, guiding me through picking the right template, etc., etc. And I can, of course, also from in here create companies, or if I go into the projects, I can create projects as well. So I can do pretty much everything I can do from the browser in here. I can search as well. Here's my free text document search, as you saw it in the browser, works exactly the same way. So whether you work from the browser or from your Outlook, Word, Excel, etc., that doesn't really matter. Going back to the browser, if we just jump to the project home, we have also Teams integration, as Eamon mentioned. You will notice this little icon here saying this is the Teams link to the Teams link. The way the Teams integration works very quickly is that you can choose to have Teams enabled or automatically or manually. If it's automatic, you can decide should this be created when you create the project, or should it be created in a certain stage or based on content of some kind. It can also be done manually, where you simply would have a button here saying create a team, so you can do it on your own discretion when you want the teams. What happens when you create a team? The same way as we have as we have master sites for and a predefined template for a project, it will be the same for the team. So whenever we create a team in a project module, it will be it will look the same way as all other teams for the projects. I have opened my teams in the background already. So if you look here, I can see I'm in my carbon bearing project, and I have a traditional Teams layout. Teams, there's nothing changed here, but I have added some tabs defined by the solution. So the first one here will show me everything pretty much in my project. So this is the full project experience. And I can do the same thing in here as in the browser. So I can work this way. I can also have tabs with the parts of information, like the changelog, for example, is just a list. I could have my people, my project team showed here. So there's a number of things you can configure, and you can also add more WorkPoint features, parts to your teams if you allow your users to modify it. So that is one way of working with the teams and WorkPoint. Another way, and I'm just near the end, no, don't worry. But the last thing I want to tell you about is the WorkPoint Teams application. We have made an app builder for WorkPoint, because Microsoft allows you to build apps for Teams. So we have made a tool that the users can, or the administrators of the WorkPoint solution in your organization can use to create applications for Teams. So instead of having this appearance, you could also have your project's app sitting over here, based on, again, the WorkPoint backend. So this will allow me to just get this on. Show me a dashboard. As you saw before, it's a different solution here, but it's the same concept. So you have a dashboard with projects, you have companies list, you have projects list. You can have a tab showing my projects, for example, giving me the overview. It doesn't look too good. There's a lot of overdue stuff here. Create a project, or maybe have your project portfolio or document search overview based on a simple drill down feature. So here I have my list of projects, and I can say I want to just go in and have a look at the project type construction. It will drill down and let me, the list will filter, and I can then go in further and see is there anything else I want to. Pardon, there's a bit of Danish text in here, shouldn't be that. But I can further drill down. And the same way I could do with documents. The document search will be a similar thing, metadata based. Say I want to have a look at everything that is about a contract. So you can see the category up here is based on, now I see only stuff that is a kind of a contract or an appendix, actually. So there we go, a drill down of the documents. I can, of course, still search free text. So if I just type in the search, if I can't find enough by drilling down, I can still do free text search. Yes, I think that will be everything from me today. If there are some questions, I'm more than happy to answer that, but I will hand back over to Iman.
Thanks, Hans. So thank you for going through the demo, and I think the kind of key element. I'm not on camera. Let me put myself back on camera. Key elements I really wanted to see was that extensibility and that ease at which we can deploy the solution, and that's kind of our experiences here at Core. Chris and Katie, who are in the background, just checking if there's any particular questions that you guys want us to pick up on.
There's nothing that's came in, Eamon. I've been keeping a wee eye on it. There might be a few that come in last minute, but at the moment, yeah, everyone seems to be just digesting what they've heard.
Excellent, cool. Hans or Azure, any final kind of updates, from any final comments from you guys?
Just for the benefit of how WorkPoint is actually being developed, we are very strict with following Microsoft best practices. We are an evergreen solution, so we will release updates very regularly, monthly, and we also do major releases a couple of times, 2 to 3 times a year. They're automatically pushed to the customer, but they can choose when to deploy them by the click of a button, basically. So we take care of everything where things change in Microsoft. We change accordingly, so you're not risking any kind of major breakdown as long as you configure your WorkPoint solution using our interface and Microsoft interfaces. Then you're always running, so to say, unless Microsoft goes down, but that rarely happens.
Excellent. Okay. I think with no further ado, we'll close. Just before we close, what I will mention is that you will be contacted by your account manager here from Core as a follow-up, and I think as an obvious next step, if you'd like to understand if there's a specific business function, be it contract management, case management, document management, project management, any of those kind of key things, more than happy for us to have an introductory conversation where we talk about how WorkPoint out of the box can deliver against those solutions, and also if a more one-on-one presentation around the WorkPoint demo that you've just seen today would be appropriate, then we can have that conversation with your account manager. So you will be contacted shortly to go through next steps. So thank you for your time. Sincere thanks, Azure, for your time as well. It was a great demo, and thanks, Hans, as well.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Cheers all. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Good day.